Good evening, everyone. My name is Emma, and I am a British storyteller. Tonight, you are already within a floating village you have not visited before. There is no journey to make now, no crossing to follow. You are simply here, standing on a narrow wooden walkway that runs between closely set buildings, each one quiet, each one holding its own small purpose. This village feels different from others. The walkways are tighter, drawn closer together, with shorter spans of water between them. The air is still, almost sheltered, as though the surrounding structures hold it in place. Even the sound of the water below is softer here, reduced to a faint, steady movement that never rises above the level of the room around it. The boards beneath your feet are smooth with use. They shift slightly as you step, not enough to disturb your balance, only enough to remind you that everything here rests gently above the water. The movement is slow, almost unnoticeable, unless you pause long enough to feel it. Lanterns hang low along the walkway. Their light is warm, but contained, held close to the wood, leaving the upper parts of the buildings in shadow. The result is a quiet layering of light and dark, where nothing is fully revealed all at once. The air carries a different scent here, drier than expected. Paper, perhaps. Cloth. A faint trace of glue. It moves lightly through the space, settling between the buildings rather than drifting away. It is not strong, but it is distinct enough to suggest the kind of work done here. Ahead, one structure stands slightly more open than the rest. Its door is set back just enough to create a small covered space at the entrance. From within, a steady light reaches outward, catching the edges of the walkway and the lower part of the wall beside it. You move toward it without hurry. The walkway narrows slightly as you approach. A low rail runs along one side, its surface worn smooth where hands have rested over time. Beyond it, the water is barely visible, held in darkness between the buildings, moving only enough to catch a faint reflection of light. Outside the entrance, a small stack of flat parcels rests against the wall. They are tied neatly with thin cord, their edges aligned, their surfaces smooth and firm. When you rest your hand lightly on the top one, there is a slight give beneath the surface, enough to suggest layers within. Paper. The scent is clearer here. Dry fibres. A trace of paste. Cloth that has been handled and folded many times. Materials that belong to careful work, to repetition, to quiet focus. You step inside. The transition is immediate but gentle. The walkway fades behind you. The faint movement of the water becomes something distant and steady, no longer drawing your attention. Inside, the room is narrow but ordered. A long wooden bench runs through the centre, its surface marked with fine lines from repeated use. Along the walls, shelves hold stacks of paper in varying sizes. Some cut cleanly, others slightly uneven at the edges. A few bound books rest among them, their covers plain, their spines straight. Nothing is decorative. Everything has a purpose. Near the far end of the bench, a lamp has been left burning. Its light falls directly across a small working area. A needle, a length of thread, a wooden press, and a folded cloth. The rest of the room remains visible, but quieter, softened at the edges. You stand just inside the doorway for a moment. This place does not feel empty. It feels paused, as though the work has only just been set down and could be taken up again without any need to begin from the start. You take one step further in, then another. The boards beneath your feet respond softly, more contained now within the walls of the room. The air is still. The light is steady. And without any need to rush, you begin to settle into the quiet rhythm waiting here. There is time first to settle into the room, to let your eyes move slowly across the space without needing to focus on anything in particular. The bench stretches the length of the room, its surface worn smooth in some places and marked in others with fine lines left by repeated use. These marks are not deep, not damaging. They are the kind that come from careful, consistent work, built up over time, rather than made in a single moment. You rest your hand lightly against the wood. It is cool at first, but not cold. The surface carries a faint dryness, a texture that feels clean rather than polished. When your fingers move across it, there is just enough resistance to remind you that it is still wood beneath everything that has passed over it. Along the wall, shelves hold their contents in quiet order. Stacks of paper sit in neat piles, some perfectly aligned, others slightly offset where the edges have shifted. The sheets vary in tone. Some are pale and almost white. Others carry a warmer shade, closer to cream. with faint irregularities in the surface that suggest they were made with care rather than precision alone. You move closer. One stack sits near the edge of the bench, its top sheet slightly curled at one corner. You place your fingertips against it, feeling the light stiffness of the paper, the faint texture beneath the surface. It bends slightly, then returns, holding its shape without effort. There is no need to take more than that. Beside the paper, a small bundle of thread rests in a shallow wooden tray. The thread is wound loosely, not tightly spooled, allowing it to be drawn without resistance. Its colour is soft and natural, somewhere between grey and beige, blending easily with the tones of the room. When you lift one end, it moves smoothly, uncoiling without catching. You set it back exactly as it was. A needle lies nearby, placed carefully so it does not roll. It is longer than expected, designed for passing through multiple layers at once. The metal catches the light in a narrow line, bright but not sharp. When you pick it up, it has almost no weight at all. It rests lightly between your fingers, balanced, waiting. You turn it once, then return it to the bench. Nothing needs to be used yet. At the far end of the workspace, a wooden press sits open. Its surface is flat and solid, two boards aligned with one another, held together by a simple frame. The wood here is darker, worn more deeply where pressure has been applied again and again. You run your hand along the edge, feeling the difference in texture, the slight indentation where hands have steadied it over time. The room remains quiet. Even the faint movement beneath the building seems more distant now, absorbed into the stillness of the space. The structure shifts only slightly, a slow, almost unnoticeable response to the water below. It does not interrupt anything. It simply exists, part of the rhythm rather than separate from it. You take a step back from the bench. From here, the room feels balanced. Nothing draws your attention too strongly. Nothing feels unfinished or out of place. The tools are where they should be. The materials are ready, but not waiting in any urgent way. This is a place where work continues, but never rushes. You move toward the side of the room, where a folded cloth hangs over a rail. Lifting it, you shake it once, just enough to release the fold. The fabric falls straight, soft and even. You lay it across a clear section of the bench, smoothing it with both hands. The motion is simple, but it marks a small shift. The space is ready now, or at least ready enough. You rest your hands lightly on either side of the cloth and pause. There is no signal to begin, no moment that announces itself as the start. Instead, there is only the quiet understanding that you can begin whenever you choose. And so, without hurry, without any need to prepare further, you remain there for a moment longer, letting the stillness settle fully before the first small task begins. You begin with the paper. There is no need to choose quickly. The stacks are already arranged in a way that makes selection simple. Each pile holds sheets of similar size and tone, grouped together without strict uniformity. You move to the nearest stack and slide the top few sheets forward. They separate easily, their edges lifting in a clean, quiet motion. When you hold them together, they feel light, but not fragile. There is a firmness to them, a structure that allows them to bend without losing their shape. You place them down on the cloth in front of you. The surface beneath softens the contact, dulling the sound as the paper meets the bench. You align the edges with both hands, tapping them lightly into place. The movement is small, controlled, repeated once, then again, until the sides sit evenly. There is no urgency to make them perfect, only close enough. You draw another few sheets from the stack and place them on top. Again, you adjust them gently, pressing the edges into alignment with the base layer. The corners do not need to meet exactly. A slight variation remains, but it does not matter. The stack holds together as a single form. One more set follows, then another. Each time the same motion. Lift, place, align. The rhythm establishes itself without effort. The stack grows slowly beneath your hands, thickening by small degrees. As it does, the weight changes slightly. What began as something light becomes something more present, something that settles more firmly when placed down. You pause once the stack reaches a comfortable thickness, not large, not small, enough. Your hands rest briefly on either side of it, feeling the edges, the way the paper holds together as a single object now, rather than separate sheets. Beside the cloth, the thread waits where you left it. You draw one end free, It slides easily from the bundle, unwinding without resistance. There is a soft, almost inaudible sound as it moves. A faint, fibre against fibre whisper that disappears as soon as it begins. You measure a length by instinct rather than precision, extending your arm, then a little more, then doubling it back. It does not need to be exact, only long enough to move through the pages without interruption. The needle lies where it was placed earlier. You lift it again, holding it between your fingers. The eye is small, but not difficult. With a steady hand, you guide the thread through, drawing it until both sides fall evenly. For a moment, you simply hold it there, needle and thread together, ready. You run your fingers along the thread once, smoothing it. It responds easily, straightening under the light pressure. There are no knots, no tangles. It has been prepared well before you arrived. You set the needle down beside the paper. Not yet. There is one more small step. You turn the stack slightly and press along its spine edge, flattening it just enough to give it shape. The paper shifts under your hand, settling more closely together. The movement is subtle, but it makes a difference. The stack feels more unified now, more prepared for what comes next. You tap the bottom edge once against the cloth. A soft, contained sound. The sheets align again, this time with even less adjustment needed. You repeat it once more, not because it is necessary, but because the motion is satisfying in its simplicity. Then you rest your hands. The paper is ready. The thread is prepared. The needle waits. Nothing has begun yet, and already the rhythm has formed. You take a slow breath and let it settle. The room remains quiet around you. The shelves, the tools, the faint structure beneath the floor, all of it continues without interruption, holding the same steady stillness. There is no signal to move forward, only the quiet sense that you can. And so, gently, without changing the pace you have already found, you draw the stack closer to you, ready for the first stitch. The needle lies just within reach. You pick it up again, the thread following without resistance. It hangs loosely between your fingers, soft and controlled, ready to move where you guide it. There is no need to hurry the first stitch. You press the tip of the needle gently against the spine edge, finding a place where it will pass through cleanly. The paper gives with only slight resistance, not a puncture, not a forceful motion, just a steady push. The needle passes through, the thread follows. You draw it through slowly, feeling the length slide between your fingers until only a short tail remains on the other side. Then you stop, holding it in place for a moment before continuing. That is enough for the first movement. You bring the needle back through a short distance along the edge. Again, the same motion. Press, guide, draw. The thread settles into the paper, disappearing and reappearing as it moves through the layers. Each pass creates a small, even connection. Nothing visible from a distance, but clear when your hands are close to it. You continue. There is no need to count. The spacing comes naturally. Each stitch follows the last at a steady interval, guided more by feel than measurement. The paper responds the same way each time, giving just enough to allow the needle through, then holding firm again once the thread is drawn tight. The rhythm builds quietly. Press, through, draw, pause, press, through, draw, pause. The pauses are as important as the movement. They allow the thread to settle, to lie flat against the edge, to hold without pulling or twisting. You adjust it lightly with your fingers when needed, smoothing it into place before continuing. Your hands begin to move without thought. The pattern repeats, and with it, the sense of time changes. There is no longer a beginning or an end to the action, only the continuation of it. Each stitch leads to the next, without needing to be considered separately. The movement carries itself forward. The room remains unchanged around you. The soft light holds steady over the bench. The shelves remain still. The faint presence of water beneath the structure continues, barely noticeable now, part of the background rather than something to listen for. All of your attention rests here. Needle, thread, paper. The stack shifts slightly as you reach the far end. You turn it gently, bringing the unfinished section back toward you. The cloth beneath absorbs the movement, keeping everything quiet and controlled. Again, you begin. Press, through, draw. The thread tightens with each pass, drawing the layers together more securely. The edge becomes firmer beneath your fingers, less separate, more unified. You pause once to run your hand lightly along the stitched section. It feels different now. Not just a stack of pages, but something held together. Something that will remain in this form once your hands leave it. You continue. The motion does not change. It does not need to. Each repetition settles more deeply into your hands, into your breathing, into the quiet rhythm of the room. There is nothing to interrupt it, nothing to pull your attention away. Only the steady continuation of the same simple action. The thread grows shorter. The work grows closer to completion. But there is no sense of finishing yet. Only the continuation of the pattern. Press, through, draw, pause, until, gradually, without any clear moment marking the shift, the final stitch arrives. You draw the thread through one last time and hold it there, still. The movement stops, but the rhythm remains. You hold the thread in place for a moment. The final stitch rests where it was drawn through, the line now complete along the edge. There is no need to rush the next movement. The work has already settled into itself. With a small, careful motion, you tie off the thread. The knot is simple, formed with 2 slow turns, then drawn closed with just enough tension to hold. You do not pull tightly, only enough to secure it without disturbing the line of stitches already in place. The loose end is trimmed. The thread remains, quiet and even, running along the spine in a line that feels balanced rather than exact. You set the needle aside. It rests where it was before, unchanged, as though it has simply returned to waiting. Your hands return to the paper. The stack is no longer loose. It holds together now as a single object, its shape defined not just by alignment, but by connection. You lift it carefully, supporting it from beneath, feeling the difference in weight and structure. There is a subtle firmness now, not rigid, not fixed, but held. You turn it slightly in your hands, observing the edge where the stitches run. The thread sits neatly along the surface, dipping in and out at even intervals. It does not draw attention to itself. It simply exists as part of the whole. You place the bound pages back onto the cloth. They settle with a softer sound than before. Your palms move across the surface, smoothing the top sheet lightly. The motion is slow, following the natural grain of the paper. It does not need to change anything. It only confirms that everything sits where it should. At the far end of the bench, the wooden press remains open. You carry the bound stack toward it. The boards of the press are worn and solid, their surfaces marked by years of use. When you place the stack between them, it fits easily, as though it belongs there. You adjust it once, aligning the edges with the flat of the press. Then you lower the top board. The contact is gentle at first. You bring the pressure down slowly, turning the handle just enough to hold the pages together. The movement is controlled, quiet. The wood responding with a soft, contained sound as it settles into place. There is no need to tighten it fully, only enough to let the pages rest and take their shape. You leave it there. Nothing more is required. The work, for now, is complete. You rest your hand briefly on the top of the press. It feels steady beneath your palm, grounded, unchanged by the motion that brought it into place. The stack inside will remain there, held without effort, continuing the work in stillness rather than movement. You step back. The bench is clearer now. The needle is set aside. The thread lies where it was placed. The remaining paper sits undisturbed on the shelf. There is no scattered motion, no unfinished task calling for attention. Only the quiet result of what has been done. For a moment, you simply look. Not to check, not to correct, only to see it as it is. The room holds the same calm as before, but something within it has shifted slightly. The work that was waiting has been carried through. The rhythm that filled your hands has come to rest. There is no sense of urgency in what follows, only the natural easing that comes after completion. The tools have been set aside. The paper is stacked. The pressed pages rest quietly within the frame, held in place without any further attention. You remain by the bench for a moment, not moving, letting the stillness settle fully around you. The room feels slightly different now. Not changed in any visible way, but quieter, in a way that comes only after work has been completed. The small sense of waiting that existed before has gone. What remains is calm, uninterrupted and steady. You move your hand once across the surface of the bench, brushing away a faint trace of paper dust that has gathered there. The motion is light, almost absent, more habit than necessity. The cloth beneath your hands is lifted, folded once, then again. You place it back on the rail where it was taken from, aligning it with the others. The fabric hangs evenly, its edge falling straight without adjustment. Near the edge of the bench, the needle rests where you left it. You slide it a little further back from the edge, not because it is in danger of falling, but because it feels more complete that way. The thread beside it is gathered loosely into a small coil, then left as it settles. These are the last small movements. Nothing else calls for attention. The lamp above the bench casts a steady light across the surface. You reach up and turn it down slightly. The change is gentle but immediate. The edges of the room soften. The details of the bench recede just enough that they no longer draw the eye. The shelves along the wall become shapes rather than surfaces. The pressed pages sit within the frame, now part of the room rather than the focus of it. You step back. The light from the doorway is now the stronger source, spreading inward in a quieter, more diffused way. The contrast between the two spaces softens, and the boundary between them feels less defined. From somewhere beneath the structure, the faint presence of water continues. It is steady, unchanged, moving without pattern or interruption. You do not listen for it directly. It is simply there, part of the space, in the same way the wood beneath your feet and the air around you are part of it. You walk slowly toward the doorway. Each step is softer now, less deliberate. The boards respond in the same quiet way as before, but your awareness of them has changed. They are no longer something you notice with each movement, only something that supports you without effort. At the threshold, you pause. The walkway outside is dim, lit only by the nearest lantern. The light reaches in just enough to touch the floor inside the doorway, then fades into the room behind you. You do not step out. Instead, you turn back once more. The workshop is as it should be. Nothing left open, nothing left unfinished. The press remains closed. The bench is clear. The tools are set aside. The shelves hold their quiet order. You reach to the door and ease it inward. Not fully closed, just enough. The opening narrows, softening the light from outside and reducing the space to a more enclosed, contained calm. The sound from the walkway lowers with it, leaving only the faintest trace behind. You return to the centre of the room. The air feels warmer here, held more closely now that the doorway has been drawn in. The difference is slight, but enough to notice when you stand still. You take one slow breath, then another. There is no movement left to follow. Only the room, only the quiet, and the steady sense that everything has settled into place. The work is complete. The tools are at rest, and the small movements that filled the space before have faded into stillness. You move toward the far side of the room, where a low bench runs along the wall. A folded blanket rests there, its surface soft and slightly textured, carrying the faint warmth of the room itself. You lift it and let it fall open once, the fabric unfolding without resistance. Then you sit. The bench is firm but steady. It holds your weight easily, unmoving beneath you. When you draw the blanket around your shoulders, it settles into place with a quiet weight. Enough to feel, not enough to press. From here, the room appears differently. The bench, the shelves, the press, all remain where they were, but they no longer ask for your attention. They exist as part of the space rather than something to focus on. The light is low. It rests across the floor in soft shapes, touching the edges of objects without fully defining them. The corners of the room fade slightly, not into darkness, but into a gentle absence of detail. You lean back slightly. The wall behind you is solid, cool in contrast to the warmth held in the air. The difference is subtle, but grounding. It gives the space a sense of balance. Your hands rest beneath the blanket. They are still now, carrying only the faint memory of the work they have done. The movement has left them, replaced by a quiet warmth that lingers in your fingers. Your breathing slows without needing to be controlled. In, out. There is no rhythm to follow, only the natural pace that comes when nothing interrupts it. The faint presence beneath the building continues. Not something to listen for, not something that draws your attention, but something that remains constant. A slow, steady movement far below, holding everything in place without effort. The air is calm. It carries the soft scent of paper and cloth, settled into the space rather than moving through it. Nothing shifts. Nothing changes. The room does not need to. Your eyes no longer move across the details. They rest. The shapes soften further. The edges of the bench, the shelves, the press, all blending into a quieter whole. Nothing disappears. It simply becomes less defined, less separate. There is no next step, no task waiting, no reason to move. The village beyond the walls continues in its own quiet way, but it feels distant now, held outside the small, enclosed calm of this room. Here, everything has already reached its end for the night. You shift slightly, settling more comfortably beneath the blanket. The movement is small. Then, stillness again. Your breathing remains slow, even, unchanged. The warmth holds. The quiet deepens. And without any effort, without any clear moment where it begins, the sense of the room starts to fade at the edges of your awareness. Not gone, just softer, further away, until all that remains is the steady calm you have settled into. And, slowly, gently, you drift into sleep.